Go.
Hello and welcome to the JB&M Sports Fanatic channel. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. And I am joined by a special guest here. That's right, the Sports Blitz. Make sure that you guys, go down there. I'll have the link here. Subscribe to his channel. We're both aiming for 1,000 subscribers, and we would certainly appreciate you guys helping us reach that goal as we go on to talk about our top 5 NFL dark horse teams. And we just did a video on his channel, so make sure that you check out the video. And that is the top 5 most overrated NFL teams that we both went out there and did. So do check that out. Again, I will have the link in the description below, so certainly check that out. And so now we'll go ahead and I'll start it off with my top 5 dark horse selections and get things going from there.
Sweet.
So for me, the first team that I have here is the Carolina Panthers. I mean, I personally think that at first when I saw the Sam Darnold trade happen, I was like, okay, I don't really know about that. But then it started to grow on me. I still believe that Sam Darnold is, a capable quarterback to go out there, especially now that he has the best weapons he ever had. Obviously, the former connection with him and Robbie Anderson, that makes a lot of sense. DJ Moore, I like him. Christian McCaffrey, if he can be healthy this year, I like, obviously their offensive line, I feel like is improving. Their defense, I like their defense. Overall, I think Carolina can be a very competitive team, and they're a team that you're not going to want to overlook and take lightly. So I'll give it to the Sport Blitz to see if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. I think this team did a very good job at adding a lot of young talent on that defense. I personally am a big fan of Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin. I think Dante Jackson could be taking a big step forward this year, as well as the addition of J.C. Horn. There's some really solid young players on that defense. Really, I think it all comes down to how the offensive line and how Sam Darnold performs. This team could definitely be a team that surprises a lot of people in 2021. I agree 100%.
I agree. I think the play calling is also going to play a key role as well. And
Yeah,
so
for
for
sure.
my next team on the list, I will be talking about the Arizona Cardinals here. So I absolutely personally love some of the things that the Cardinals have, but the reason why the Cardinals are on this list for me is not so much the AJ Green pickup. I mean, whatever you get from AJ Green, that's fine. I like the receiving room with or without him, but if he can come out there and give you anything out, he doesn't have to be a 1,000 yard receiver. Not he, if he comes out there and gives you 700, 800 in addition to what you already got, you've already got Hopkins. I really love, obviously, having Hopkins there, and I do like the rest of the receiving room. So that part right there. And then at the running back position, I believe in Chase Edmonds and his
Mhm.
potential. They added James Conner, so I mean, that does provide some added depth there. And so, however they choose to be, whoever's running back one, whoever's running back two, I promise you guys, in fantasy football, you're going to want to stick with Chase Edmonds in this one. But Kyler Murray, I'm going to go ahead and predict that he's going to have, if not an MVP caliber season, something close to it. He's going to have his best season as a pro, and I think that's going to go a long way for them. Defensively, they got some guys that are, getting a little bit up there, older in age, but I think that they're still at the point now where they don't have to be their prime selves. They just got to be close to it. JJ Watt, I'm not expecting the Houston Texans version of him, but just go out there and be good. Live up to your last name and just go out there and let them know that you're out there. Him, Chandler Jones, and then they've got some younger pieces as well. They did lose Patrick Peterson, but I still like the front seven of these Cardinals and their potential.
Right. Yeah. I would agree with that too. This team definitely has all the talent in the world. I mean, I also think Kyler Murray is really underrated. I think a lot of people kind of overlook him because of purely the win total last year. I mean, he still put up, I want to say, close to 40 total touchdowns. Like he was incredible last year. Um, I, I mean, I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to take another, big leap this year with another 1,200 yards, maybe in 13 or 1,400. Um, and like you said, Chase Edmonds, even last year with Kenyon Drake, Chase Edmonds still kind of came out as the number one running back on that roster. Um, James Conner could be a solid addition as well if he can stay healthy. Um, my biggest questions are how are the additions going to perform? AJ Green and JJ Watt, those are both guys that, yeah, they've been really good all their career, but they've been plagued with injuries as well as age. So we just got to see how they perform. I also know that Chandler Jones is getting a little bit older now and also has some injury concerns. Um, but if they can get through those injuries and Cliff Kingsbury can call a good game, these Cardinals could be a very very dangerous team in 2021, for sure.
Agreed. An extremely tough division too, I might add. So that's going to play a
Yeah,
role.
definitely the toughest division in football in my opinion.
Perfect. So I will discuss the next team. And for me, I have the Indianapolis Colts. So first of all, I'll start with the defensive side of the ball. I really love what they did in the draft, to complement what they've already got defensively. So they've got a pretty sound defense. So I expect for that to remain the same this upcoming season. Offensively, I love their running back room. Absolutely love it. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, I feel he's going to be a top five running back. And obviously, what Hines was able to do last year, that was tremendous. And then you add the fact that they were able to bring back Marlon Mack, who should be healthy this year. And so can't forget about him. He's going to play a role as well. So they certainly have about four running backs that they can use at any given time. So certainly expect for that run game to play a big role in helping Carson Wentz to, that plus the offensive line. They've got pretty solid receivers. T.Y. Hilton may not be the same T.Y. that he used to be for the Colts, but I feel like they have a good amount of solid pass catchers to where, they can spread the wealth around. I like their tight end room. So Carson Wentz for me, I feel that he's going to play good. He's not going to be the Carson Wentz we saw early in his career, but he's going to be better than what we saw last season or two for the Eagles, I think. So he'll be somewhere in between that.
Yeah, for sure. And I also am a big Jonathan Taylor fan. Looking at him, I get very strong Saquon Barkley vibes. If he can stay healthy, this dude can be a monster. The last few weeks of last season, he balled out. He played as well as anybody in the league. I think he can be a real monster, especially behind, you know, that Colts offensive line that is top five in football right now. Also, as you mentioned, Nyheim Hines, yeah, while he's a very solid running back too, he also, as a kick returner and punt returner, he can he can take it for a touchdown, you know, at about any moment. He is an incredibly good punt returner. Um, so very good addition to the special teams. Um, the defense, I think, will be good again this year too. I think they should be. Um, I'd say probably a borderline top 10, top 15 defense. Um, there's a lot to like about this team. My biggest question there is Carson Wentz. Will he ever get back to, you know, how he had been in 2019 and 2018? Or is he going to be the 2020 Carson Wentz again? That's my biggest question mark with this team. But they could definitely surprise a lot of people, including myself, for sure.
Absolutely. I will touch on one more thing before we go to the next team. I do remember this past season, before the season started, when I found out that they were signing Philip Rivers, and I was like, "Oh man, they're really reaching here." Philip, he doesn't seem to have it anymore, but they
Hmm.
had a pretty like they really maximized what was left of Philip Rivers in his career. So I think they can do the same with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, that's a solid point too. I've been a pretty big fan of Philip Rivers. In his career though, I thought even with the Chargers, I thought he was a pretty underrated quarterback. I mean, even 2019, or sorry, the 2018 season, he played really well. Like I thought he was a top 10 quarterback. Um, so I thought he still had a solid amount left in the tank, but um, no, they did definitely get the most out of him last year for sure.
Absolutely. And sometimes it just, like you run your course with a team, it's time to go elsewhere, fresh start, and then it just gets the energy going. So that's probably what Philip needed. But I too have been a big fan of Philip Rivers, especially in that draft class, because for one, I was so harsh on Eli Manning, not just because, like a, I mean, because I've seen Eli, yeah, he won Super Bowls and stuff, but for me, when I looked at the other quarterbacks that was drafted in the first round, Ben Roethlisberger, Philip Rivers. I really liked it how those two consistently brought it year in and year out. Whereas I felt like for Eli, if he had a great year, yeah, like they'll get hot, win the Super Bowl and stuff. But I don't know. I felt some of that was luck, but maybe I was just biased. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure.
All right, so next up for me is the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, I absolutely love what they have in terms of their team. The only thing that I guess you can say that I don't really too much like is the fact that they have Kansas City in the division. But that's, obviously, you're going to have to go out there and compete. But I love what Justin Herbert and what his future is going to have for them in store. If they can stay healthy at the running back position, they've got some solid running backs there. Receiving core Keenan Allen and company. I like their receivers, especially Keenan Allen. I mean, when he gets going, he really gets going. So I love their offense. They have a great defense. For so many years, it felt like the Chargers have always been competitive, close. But I really feel like this year, with the acquisitions that they had throughout the draft as well, I feel like they really did a great job of adding to what they've already had so they can take that next leap as a team moving forward. So I'm excited for the Chargers this upcoming season.
Yeah, I'm gonna say right now the Chargers are also on my list. I love this Chargers team. If there's any player in the NFL over the last year that really exceeded my expectations, it was Justin Herbert. This dude this dude quickly became one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. I mean, coming back with a healthy Derwin James as well as Joey Bosa, um, I think this defense will take big steps forward, as well as their offensive line last year was very suspect, and they made some good additions. They obviously added Corey Linsley, one of the best centers in the league last year from the Packers, as well as landing Rashawn Slater, who I thought was the second best offensive tackle in the draft last year. Um, I mean, really, the main thing holding them back last year in my mind was injuries, and I can't even think of their old head coach's name. I
All
can't
right,
think of
was
it
it
right now.
Anthony Lynn, I think?
Yeah, Lynn. Um, I thought he was really the only thing holding this team back. With their new head coach, the old defensive coordinator for the Rams, I think this is gonna be a really scary team. I had them going 11-6 this year. I think they could very well make the playoffs. So I'm a big fan of this team right now.
Yeah, 11-6 sounds about right, honestly, for what I'm thinking the Chargers are going to be capable of doing this year, especially if they can pick up where they left off at last year. I mean, you mentioned some great additions to that offensive line. When they got Lindsey from the Packers, I was looking like, okay, I see what they're doing inside the interior there. And then when they got Slater, seeing that Slater kept rising on the day, like leading up to the draft, he just kept climbing up boards. And so for the Chargers to get him where they got him without having to obviously trade up or anything, that was absolutely fantastic. And then the rest of their draft as well. I mean, I absolutely love what they did. So absolutely love it.
Yeah, and yeah, getting Rashawn Slater without like really Rashawn Slater could have been a top 10 pick. And then I also really loved their pickup of Asante Samuel. I thought he was actually the third best corner in the draft. I thought he was actually better than Caleb Farley in my opinion. Um, so they really got a good pickup here. Also, with the addition of these, well, basically improving the offensive line as much as they did. Look out for Austin Eckler. He could be in for a real breakout season this year.
Oh yeah, anytime, as you mentioned with the Asante Samuel Jr. pickup, anytime that you have a guy like him, Patrick Peterson, in which I saw their fathers have success, and so I'm really high on those two particularly in their future. in this league. I mean, not just because obviously their fathers were good, but I believe in their potential as well. So
Hmm.
those are my top two corners that I was looking forward to it, like in the draft to see where they were going to end up at. So happy for Asante Samuels Jr. to be in this particular place, a great place to be at for him right now in his career.
For sure.
And so now we'll go on to my next and final team here, and I have those New England Patriots. One of the teams that was very highly discussed early on because they opened free agency with a splash. It's like Bill Belichick just rolled up that half sleeve that he had and just dove into the pool and said, all right, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to just pay to fix these issues right here. They started off with the tight end room. The tight end room was the worst last year for the New England Patriots, and it was just awful to watch. But hey, they realized that, so they brought in not one tight end. I mean, obviously Janu Smith, but they went and got Hunter Henry as well. So they brought in two tremendous tight ends, and New England's offense really opens up when they have tremendous tight ends. But they didn't stop there. You know, the additions at receivers, you know, Nelson Aguilar and company, Kendrick Bourne. I mean, so they went ahead up and they addressed positions that they really need. And not just that. Last year, the Patriots defensively had about 8 guys opt out on their team. And so that's a lot of guys to opt out. And we're talking about most of them being, you know, like heavy starters. Now, sure, Patrick Chung chose to retire. He didn't come back. But I mean, to have the guys that they did come back and then throughout what they were able to do in the draft, I mean, Bazemore as well, you know, on the defensive line, you know, so I feel like they're going to be much improved on the run stopping. We know what they have in the pass defense as long as Gilmore does end up staying with the Patriots, you know, him, J.C. Jackson, love that combination. So I feel that it's going to be really down to the Patriots and the Buffalo Bills when it comes to the division. Now, I know Buffalo fans don't want to hear that right now, you know, neither do Dolphin fans, but I really feel that this team's going to be great. And when you talk about the quarterback position, Cam Newton, hey, if Cam goes out there and ball, he'll be out there for as long as he can continue to ball. If he starts to struggle, Mac Jones will go in there, and I think Mac Jones will have a tremendous career. I think he's the perfect fit for the Patriots. I said prior to the draft that Mac Jones needs to either end up with Bill Belichick and the Patriots, or he needed to end up with the Saints down there with Sean Payton in order for him to
Hmm.
really reach his maximum potential. I felt it had to be one of those two systems, and he ended up with the Patriots. So I love what they did. Damian Harris, if he can stay healthy, look out for the type of season that he can have.
Yeah, for sure. I think Bill Belichick really looked at his schedule, saw Tom Brady, Gronk, and the Bucks on the schedule, and was like, "Dang, I need to revamp this team so I can beat them." But no, in all seriousness though, like they made some real awesome additions this offseason. Like you mentioned, Johnny Smith and Hunter Henry. I think they're both top 10 tight ends in the league. And I mean, J.C. Jackson and Stephon Gilmore quite possibly could be the best cornerback duo in the league. They're definitely up there. Um, and yeah, with all of the opt outs from last year, those guys playing again this year, I mean, heck, with a very depleted roster last year, they still went 7-9. I mean, with these additions, I wouldn't be surprised if this team ends up with 10, 11, even 12 wins. Um, this could be a very scary Patriots team again, for
You're
sure.
absolutely right. And as you mentioned, you know, I mean, you think back to some of the games that they lost last year, you know, like early on, we saw the Seattle game where they literally came within a yard or two of being able to win that game. We saw against the Kansas City Chiefs, Cam Newton missed that game due to COVID, and yet they still put up one heck of a performance in which people thought that they might upset the Chiefs until
Hmm.
you know, it just fell apart at the very end. And then you look at the game against the Broncos, you know, Cam just wasn't the same because of that whole COVID impact, all of that. And then against Buffalo, Cam
Hmm.
fumbled with the ball against Buffalo. I know I'm calling Cam out a lot here, but he said himself it's time for him to put up or shut up at this point. And we've
Hmm.
got Mac Jones now. So, you know, if Bill Belichick sees the Cam's not getting it done, he'll give Mac Jones that opportunity to come in there. And then I think Mac Jones will do good when it's his time to go out there.
Right. And I think important to note, Cam Newton has said this offseason that he has never felt as healthy as he does right now. He said he hasn't felt the same since in 2016 they were playing the Chargers, and I guess he threw an interception, and when he went to tackle the guy like out of bounds, apparently it messed up his shoulder really really bad, and he says now is the first time he's felt 100% healthy. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be, 2015 Super Cam again. I'm not saying that by any means. But let's not write off Cam Newton quite yet. I think he could still, you know, be a pretty solid quarterback for these Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, we all saw it for ourselves early on in the season, before he had COVID, and then he just came back and he didn't look the same. But prior to that, he had the Patriots competitive, and
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, yeah, he's not going to be probably doing it so much with his passing, but I mean, he's going to have better weapons now. So anytime you have tight ends, that can help a quarterback like Cam because now you've got guys where you can just throw it up, near them. They can go out there and snag the ball. So you're going to start getting more faith. I mean, you have to realize how bad that receiving core was last year. Your best receivers throughout the year might have been someone like Jacoby Myers or something like
Yeah.
that, or either Gunner. So they had like no real receivers there. Julian Edelman, he
Mm-hmm.
was hurt throughout most of that. So I'm excited for the Patriots moving
Right,
forward.
for sure. I think Damian Harris could be a big impact for them as well. He did play solid in his time last year.
Right. But I will say this, anybody that's going to draft him in fantasy football, beware. Damian Harris has a tendency to get nicked in the game. And so, like, if you're counting on him, he might get you 15 points, get hurt, come out, so just keep that in
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, no,
So,
I definitely wouldn't take him as like a running back one or even an early running back two. I'd probably have him as you know, as a flex player if absolutely needed. But yeah, he should
there
be
you have
solid
it.
for them.
There you have it. And so now we will take this time to turn it over to the Sport Blitz and his top five dark horse teams. Take it from here.
Okay, guys, I mentioned it earlier. I've got the Chargers on my list too. I really don't think there's much more to say about them at this point. Like, I'm a big fan of their roster. I think they chose a good head coach. Look out for the Chargers next year. Um, do you want to say anything extra about them before I jump up to my number two team?
Yeah, I will go ahead right now and guarantee that, barring any injuries, I guarantee that this Chargers team will be in the playoffs. There goes my bold guarantee.
Yeah, and I mean with seven teams in each conference in the playoffs, I mean the Chargers could very well slide in. Um, yeah, I'm very excited to see the Chargers this season. I think Herbert could honestly emerge as a top five quarterback this year. I really do. I think he could take a big leap forward.
He was so huge for me in fantasy football last year, and I know I keep mentioning fantasy football. Maybe we should add that to the title at some point. But but honestly, I mean, Justin Herbert, he saved my team when Ryan Fitzpatrick got pulled last year, which he did
Mhm.
not deserve to get pulled by the Dolphins. But when he got pulled, Justin Herbert, he it was so great to have him on my roster. That's all I'm saying.
For sure, for sure. Um, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go into my number two team. Another team we have the same team on Carolina Panthers. Like I mentioned before, they've got a ton of young defensive talent. I mean, they've got weapons everywhere. I mean, they've got DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall. They got David Moore from the Seahawks. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey. They added Chuba Hubbard. They added Dan Arnold, who I think was a really underrated signing from from the Arizona Cardinals. Like they have weapons out the wazoo. um,
Right.
I mean, I think the coaches know what they're doing. This could if Darnold and the offensive line performs, I think this could be a very good team.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And you mentioned Chuba Hubbard. I was so happy when Carolina took him because I mean, obviously they no longer have Mike Davis, and so with the
Mm-hmm.
amount of time that Christian McCaffrey usually misses, you're going to need to have a solid running back too. And I'm excited for his ceiling in terms of what he can become in this league. So I am happy for that. And then when you look at the offensive coordinator, I mean, they had the same offensive coordinator that a couple of years ago had success with Joe Burrow down there at LSU when he won his championship. So if Sam Darnold can, I mean, this is setting up for Sam Darnold to really have that type of year now where he's going to start to, I don't think he's going to go out there and have like a top 10 quarterback type of season, but I could see top 15 potentially being, within reach, like it's coming down, it's going to come down really close, I think, towards the end of the year. Christian McCaffrey being healthy, that's going to help because there's just so many ways you can use C-Mac, and he'll just make
Mhm.
everything a lot easier offensively. But if he can stay healthy, look out for his team.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna go into my number three team. I chose the Minnesota Vikings. Um, Man, I love the Vikings this offseason. I think their defense honestly got quite a bit better. Um, I mean, I don't even know where to start here. Like, Dalvin Cook is a top three running back in the league. Justin Jefferson is already borderline top five wide receiver. Like, he balled out last year. And really, Kirk Cousins, I still don't understand the hate that Kirk Cousins gets. I mean, he put up 35 touchdowns last year and, you know, put up the numbers of like a top 10 quarterback. Um, I mean, yeah, the wins didn't show, but a lot of that was because of the defense last year. I think with an improved defense, because they had a very good defensive draft, they added a lot of good defensive players. Um, I think this team could very well get 9, 10, 11 wins. And if Aaron Rodgers is out of Green Bay, I could very well see the Vikings win that division. In fact, that's actually what I'm predicting right now. I think the Vikings win that division with Aaron Rodgers not playing for Green Bay anymore.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, the status of Aaron Rodgers is going to be extremely critical in terms of, who's going to win that division. But I do love what these Minnesota Vikings have. I do like the additions they made, particularly, at the defensive line. I believe, what was that guy who played for the Cleveland Browns last year? Was it Dalvin Tomlinson, if I'm not mistaken? I know they brought in a veteran
Yeah,
defensive lineman. Yeah, okay, just wanted to make sure there.
I think so, yeah.
So him and then Patrick Peterson, I believe in the second year, although Patrick's getting a little up there now as in compared to his prime self, but still his veteran presence, he still have some skills, and he still got some years remaining, I think, in this league. And so when you talk about those additions there offensively, another year for Justin Jefferson to go out there and light it up, him, Adam Thielen, love that combination, especially for Kirk. They seem to be on the same page there. And then Dalvin Cook, my man, just lights it up. I mean, you want to talk about fantasy running backs? Hey, Dalvin Cook, he's up there on my
he,
board.
he,
That's all I
he,
can say.
he's as explosive as they come. He's incredible.
Absolutely. He's like probably by himself carrying the whole Florida State, like alumni as of the last couple of years, at least in terms of offensive players. So, yeah, he's
Right.
definitely goes out there and you have to know what he's going to do because he's the kind of guy when you're in a game versus, say, the Chicago Bears and the defense that they always bring out there, he's the guy that you can count on to go out there and have those big plays, once or twice in a game when you really need them that can make a difference. So certainly having him that is huge. And I like the ceiling for these Vikings. Kirk Cousins, as you mentioned, people need to give him more love. Stop hating on my man, Kirk Cousins.
Right, I totally agree. I'm going to go into my number four team, and I have the New York Giants. Giants, in my opinion, seem to be very, like, scary similar team to the Carolina Panthers. Like, I feel like the Giants are basically the Carolina Panthers with a better secondary, but a quarterback with a little bit less upside than Sam Darnold. Because, I mean, both very, very shaky offensive lines, both top five running backs in Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey, obviously. Um, Both Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold are unproven and are more widely considered to be kind of bottom of the league quarterbacks, but could take a big leap forward this year. Um, they both have some very good receivers. Obviously, the Giants added Kenny Galladay this year. I still think Darius Slayton will be really solid. They also added Kadarius Toney out of Florida, who I was a big fan of. I thought he was going to be honestly drafted even earlier than he was. I think he has all the talent in the world. Um, and I mentioned before, I think the Giants secondary could be honestly, top three in the league. I love that secondary. Um, so definitely watch out for the Giants.
Yeah, when it comes to the Giants, I mean, there's a lot of things that they did this offseason that I do like. I mean, you mentioned some of the acquisitions that they had, getting Kenny Galladay, that's going to be huge right there. Drafting Tooney, though, that was one that I did not see coming, but that was one that I think for the future of this team would be absolutely great. But they've got a lot of weapons right now, so I think Tooney may not have the type of impact that he would say if a team like the Jaguars would have taken him this year because there'd be more opportunities for him. But I think that they're
Hmm.
going to spread the ball around. But for Daniel Jones, he understands he has to go out there and show them something this year. And we're talking about a division that, pretty much is up for grabs at this point. Anybody can really go out there for this division. You go out there and find yourself with 9, 10, 11 wins, that may be the division right there. So it's certainly one that if they can go out there and if Saquon comes back and he looks like the Saquon that we saw prior to injuries, then yes, this team can really go out there and turn some heads. I mean, we know how the Giants are. They're a team that they don't have to necessarily win the division to make some noise. They can if
Hmm.
they get hot at the right time, everything will fall together. And so
Yeah, for sure.
definitely
They were
definitely see the upside.
they were definitely threatening to win the division last year. I mean, while I think Washington football team's the better team there, the Giants could definitely, be a real threat to them. So,
Absolutely. And that's one thing about that division, honestly. It just feels like, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how do you perform within your division. That's what's going to ultimately make the difference. Because those division games feel like they can be split or go across. Even if a team like the Eagles come out and struggle, you know that they're going to come out and try to play hard inside their division. So how you do inside the division may ultimately decide who wins the division in this one.
right, for sure. Okay, jumping into my fifth and last team, I have the Chicago Bears. Their draft, oh my goodness, it was incredible. Trading up for Justin Fields, getting Tevin Jenkins, who I thought was a really solid tackle. Um, I know there were other picks that I was really fond of. I can't think of them right now, but they had an insanely good draft. I mean, they still have, in my mind, a top 10 defense. They have a much more solid offensive line now. Um, really, like, I know Matt Nagy this whole offseason has been saying that Andy Dalton's going to be the starter. Guys, it's smoke. Okay? Matt Nagy is going to be coaching for his job this year. If he doesn't show something this year, he could very well be fired. Justin Fields, I think, will give this team the best chance to win, even as a rookie. I'm very fond of Justin Fields as a quarterback. I think I think this Bears team could be really scary in years to come. I think this was a very, very important draft for them, and they definitely nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that completely. I mean, I feel Justin Fields, in my opinion, he is going to be the best quarterback, perhaps to come from this class. I mean, Mac Jones, I feel like over time, he'll continue to progress and get better and reach there. But in terms of the things that you can do with Justin Fields, I like Trey Lance as well, in his ceiling, but I
Hmm.
really love Justin Fields. Now, I will say, I follow a lot of Ohio State football, and so maybe some bias might be in that, but I saw a lot of things that I never saw come from that program at the quarterback position. I mean, when he
Hmm.
went out there, he has the athleticism, but he will pass, he will be a pass first type of guy. So he's someone that the fan base they're going to love. They're going to use this guy on Madden, find success with him that way. Allen Robinson, the Chicago Bears have got to find a way to keep Allen Robinson beyond this season. If I'm a season ticket holder, I am letting them know each and every day, look, you guys better keep Allen Robinson if you want me to keep coming back because this guy, we need him and to build, upon what they've already got with him. So it's important that they keep him beyond this year, but I'm glad to see that, obviously, as you mentioned, the whole Andy Dalton thing, even if they do stick Andy Dalton out there, I think by game 4, Justin Fields will be on the field if Matt Nagy knows what's good for him. So, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
that defense is always great. That's a defense that when you're looking in fantasy football, you always want to pick up the Chicago Bears defense because you know that there's going to be consistency with that defense. And so, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're a good defense. So they're always going to be in it because of their defense. David Montgomery, he's going to have a special season. Look out for the Bears.
For sure. I think they could. I think they're going to be a really good team in years to come. And I mean, while I did predict them at 9-8 this year, I could very well see them exceeding expectations and possibly going for 10 or 11 wins. I It wouldn't surprise me. I think this is a very very good team. But
Right, right.
yeah,
Absolutely agree.
I think that's all I had for my underrated teams. I think really every team on this list could very very well compete for playoff spots for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's obviously a lot of things that are going to play key factors, as such as being healthy. If you're the Vikings and the Bears, it would definitely be great if, in those scenarios, if Aaron Rodgers was not with the Packers this upcoming season, as it'll really be those two competing with each other for the division. I feel should Aaron Rodgers not return with the Packers. So a lot of things that's up in the air right now. But hey, we're at the training camp. Well, training camp coming up, so a lot of exciting things, and I'm ready for football to start.
Me too. I'm counting down the days already. Heck, I'm even counting down the days for preseason. That's how excited I am for it. So it's gonna be a good year.
Exactly. Exactly. Looking forward to it. Yeah, well, I think that covers it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Remember to like and subscribe. I'll have the link here for the Sports Blizz. I have his channel down here, so definitely do check it out and subscribe to both of us and help us reach our goal of getting to 1,000 subscribers. But with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know in the comment section what do you guys think. Do you agree with these picks? Who do you guys have in your top five? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. But with that being said, thanks again for joining and see you guys next time.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. I appreciate it a lot. I'll see you next time.